be sitting here, but I just wanted to say a thing. You know, this therapy stuff, there's no guarantees, huh? It may be helpful, may not, I don't know, no guarantees. But I can guarantee you today that I'll try my very best to help you help yourselves get to a better place. And I suspect you'll try your very best too. Okay? Let me start by, I ask a lot of questions, so let me start by asking, what's your best hopes today?
Yeah.
To understand, mutual understanding.
She and I were having a real struggle.
A mutual understanding.
Well, we have different opinions on our mom, and I just want her to get on the same page with me, and I think it'll be better.
So it's a mutual understanding in regards to mom.
Yes. She's older,
Mm-hmm.
very independent lady,
Oh,
and she wants to stop driving. Now,
she wants her to stop driving.
Driving.
Yeah.
and I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I don't. Mom's been doing okay.
She's
And
70 years old, what are you talking about?
have you been with her lately?
But she just needs to stop driving.
See?
So there's a lot of disagreement about mom's caretaking.
Yes.
And you disagree about everything about mom's caretaking, or are there things that you are in agreement with?
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Everything.
Yeah. It seems like she says one thing, I say that. I say, even if
But I take care of her more.
There's never a time when you're in agreement with mom.
no.
She lives with you,
She lives with me.
and you live in another town.
Exactly, and I get in here as often as I can.
Sure, yeah.
And then we go out and do things, so I try and give her a break, but we both have family responsibilities. And mom's getting to be a little much for both of us sometimes, I think.
She's with me more. I have the bulk of problems.
So, yeah, and mom's aware that you disagree a lot about her?
Yes, 'cause
Yeah.
I voice my opinion all the time to her.
Sure.
Yeah, she knows.
And then she calls me. And she says so and so, and you know that's not what I want. I'm like, okay, but I kind of see where you're coming from, but I know she lives with her.
So mom is, she's how old did you say?
70.
So she's fully aware you bicker a lot about
Oh,
in
yeah.
regards to her.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you and your sister have always fought like this since you were little. And I'm like, no, right now, this is gonna come up again.
She just needs to get on the same page. Like, she stays with me. I'm the one that's fully taking care of her. She needs to stop driving. I can take her where she needs to go. She don't need to be in the street.
Is there anything else other than the bickering about mom that brings you here today?
I don't know. I think I'd like to be able to have a better relationship with my sister. Like she says, we bicker, but then sometimes we take it too far.
A better relationship, what does that look like?
I don't know, maybe if we were able to talk about some of this stuff instead of it turning into a fight.
So what would you, if you were having a good conversation, what would you be talking about?
Probably mom first.
But what would you talking about, what would you be talking about, mom, with a good conversation? Because that's one of your hopes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would that look like or sound like?
Well, it would sound a lot less argumentative.
Yeah, I know what it would sound like. What would it sound like?
It would sound a lot less argumentative. It would. We'd be able to both express our opinions. I feel like I was being listened to.
Okay. So she would listen better to you.
A little bit.
A good conversation with us be both on the same page. She would
And
just,
when you say same page, can you
when I say what I say, then she should just go along with it.
agree?
Agree? Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Anything else you want to say about that?
I think my mom kind of favored her when we were younger.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
I'd also it was you because you were older. You could just so
No, you seem to do
Well,
everything right.
yeah, well, let's come back to that. Let me ask you this question, and it's a question that I've used many times with my clients, and it's kind of some people think it's kind of an odd question, but there's no right or wrong answer. That's the nice thing about it. So if you just relax, and think about this. You answer it the way you want, and that's your answer, okay? So, let me ask you. Suppose you go home tonight. Well, when you do, you know, what you normally do when you go home, you might make some dinner or, you know, get ready for work the next day, get clothes out. And you get done with all those tasks, and then, you know, you get ready and you go to bed. And while you're sleeping tonight, a miracle would occur in your lives. And you wouldn't know that because you're sleeping. But tomorrow morning, when you wake up, this miracle's occurred, and the concerns we've just been talking about, gone, vanished. What's different?
I could call her and say, how's mom?
You could call Nico.
Right, and say, how's mom?
Hold on. Call Nico and say, how is mom?
And
Okay.
she'd tell me.
And she'd tell you.
We wouldn't get into, well, I have to do this, this, and this for mom.
And she
Or-
would just tell you.
Right.
Okay, what else?
Without a whole list of stuff that she had to do for mom today. You know, I did
So
this for mom. and I
she
did
wouldn't
this-
go into all the things she did for mom.
Yeah.
What would she talk about then when you say you would call and say how mom is, and she would talk to you? What would you talk about?
First she'd tell me that what mom had been doing and not what she was doing for mom.
What mom? How much
What
mom's
mom's doing, and then maybe I could ask how she was doing,
Oh,
and how she was feeling, and how my nieces and nephews are. And I know she's proud of her kids, and I'd love to hear her talk about that sometimes, but we get into a fight about mom before it ever even gets to that part of the conversation.
I wouldn't have
Okay.
to tell her about mom because she'll be here helping me. And
so she would be helping you more. So what would that look like, Nico, after the miracle? How would she be helpful, realizing that she lives 3 states away?
she wouldn't be 3 states away. She'd be here.
So what the miracle would be? What?
The miracle would be that we're doing this together. And I wouldn't have to.
And how would you be doing it together, realizing your current situation?
She would come around more often.
She'd come around.
Hmm.
And what else?
I wouldn't have to ask her to do anything. She'd just do it on her own.
So Elizabeth would help with mom more. Could you give me an example of how you know she's helping more?
Well, she would take mom to different places where I wouldn't have to. She would spend more time with mom.
Spend more time.
Yeah, you know?
Okay, so this miracle occurs, and you, Elizabeth, would call your sister, Nico, and she would talk to you about mom, and kind of tell you what mom's doing, get you up to speed with that, right?
Right.
And you would know the miracle occurred because you and Nico might even talk about things beyond mom, like how is she doing, how are the kids, how are my nieces, et cetera, talk about other family members. And you would know, Nico, that the miracle is beginning to unfold because your sister would be doing more things with your mother, and oh, by the way, maybe doing them without your asking. Okay. Let me ask you this part, though. I really appreciate how you're working with this. How would mom know the miracle occurred between her 2 daughters?
You wouldn't be arguing.
What would you be doing?
We'd enjoy mom.
Yeah.
Enjoying mom? Both of you?
Yes. I mean, we both love our mother. I think that's one of the reasons we fight so much.
Okay. Okay. and just, you're doing great, hold it right there. And I may, in my work, go on and explore this miracle situation for quite some time. And usually, my perturbation with that is the client's perturbation. Is there more? Is there more? But as a general rule, when I've got a page or two full, that's quite a bit of goals. And so, then what I would do next is I would compliment them. And let me just say, that's a huge part of the model, complimenting people. And do you know the reason why complimenting is a big part of the model? Anybody? Pardon? Anybody? Well, that's part of it, yeah, but they tell me that people like to be complimented.
Makes you feel good.
I know I do, but they tell me that people like to be complimented.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah. You got your hand up, so I gotta ask you.
So, I'm just curious, so when you're working with multiple clients, this theory and you using the miracle question, you always ask, say, since they're particularly arguing about one specific person, do you always ask how an outsider would know about the miracle? Or-
Well, yeah, and that is what kind of a question embedded within the miracle question? That's circularity. And certainly with this one, I'd want to know Mom's viewpoint on it. And, gee, they'd know Mom would know because they'd be Mom. I guess Mom would know that you are enjoying her more, or I'd have to fluff that out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, after they've done this part, then I have developed from the model a thing I call simplifying responses to the miracle. And so I would give them this list and ask them to pick out the very small piece that would be a sure sign to them, and maybe Mom, maybe not, that would be a sure sign that things are moving in the direction they want it to go. And remember, when I say direction, I'm not talking it's got to go north, south, east, or west. They go the direction they want to go with it. So if I was to do that, just for the sake of time, what do you think you'd pick out?
I guess conversate more, the part where we're able to talk about each other and
Talk more.
Yeah,
So, okay,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's start it this way, and would you throw a curveball at me and say that, so I come back in the room and I say, so you would know that the miracle is beginning because you two would be having nicer conversations. And then I'm gonna ask you an exception. And you both say you can't think of a time recently when you've had a good conversation. The reason I want them to do this is it's more challenging, and I want to demonstrate what you do when people can't readily come up with an exception on the spot. So, okay, thank you, and you're still here. That's good news. That's a miracle to me. So we would know that the miracle's beginning for Elizabeth and Nico because you would be having more meaningful conversations. Okay, that would be a nice thing, huh? So let me ask you, can you tell me a time recently when you both have had a pleasant conversation?
No.
No?
Not recently.
No, can't recall.
That's your daughter had that dance we said a couple of years ago. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, years.
Years.
Okay. Can you think of anything?
Maybe when my niece was born. She's what, 9 now?
But nothing recent, huh?
No.
No.
Nothing. Zilch. Well, let me ask you this. Pretend you come back next week, our next session, and you both share with me a time that you had a meaningful conversation. What would you tell me?
The last time you had it?
Yeah, well, let's pretend you had one this next week.
Next week?
What would you, and I'd go, that's great, what'd you guys talk about?
My nieces. And you and how you're doing for change. Because all I ever hear about is.
Let me hear that conversation.
Okay, hello.
Hey, sis, how are you?
I'm good. How's mom?
She's doing well. She's
Okay.
doing well.
How about you? How are you doing for a change?
I'm hanging in there. I'm okay.
How's the nieces doing? I know you've got one who's real busy with dance. What's
Yeah,
going on with that
and
one?
now she's doing gymnastics.
Gymnastics.
Mhm.
On top of the dance?
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. How did you get that to happen?
You asked me.
Well, no, I asked you to show me how to do that. How did you do that? I didn't tell you to do that.
We just,
I asked your permission and you so nicely did it. I'm just curious how you were able to do that.
Because we do love each other.
I guess we didn't focus on mom that much.
We did.
Okay, so let me ask you, would you be willing to do more of that between now and our next session? And then come back and talk about that? Would that be a good starting
Talk to
place?
each other about
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we could do that, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you, just a couple more questions and then I don't have anything, and you might have some. On a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being 0 and 10 being the best, I guess, or the highest, how motivated are you to have these conversations this week?
7 maybe?
7?
Because I miss my sister.
Yeah, and how about you, Nico?
Yeah, I can say that.
Okay. And how optimistic are you on that scale?
5 maybe? Because I know us. I know me.
So highly motivated, but so when it happens, it'll be a miracle almost. Yeah. Okay.
For them to reach.
Well, they've already developed their own goals right here. Now, there might be more goals as we go along in the conversation. But when I do these demonstrations, I'm surprised no one said, because one of the biggest criticisms with the model is many people have thought over the years it's a Band-Aid. And so a lot of people say, well, yeah, but Lee, so you left them in the first session with the idea that part of their goal was to have more meaningful conversations or delightful or whatever their language would have been. So I asked them if they would do that this week and come back and talk to that. Now, a lot of people would say, yeah, but you didn't address the mother issue. Well, you have to have a bit of faith, and this is one of your one of the things that you wholly believe in, and that I believe in my therapy is a very wise therapist by the name of Milton Erickson many years ago said, small change will lead to system-wide change. And that was hammered into me. But I was a doubter until I started working that way and having faith that just the small change will lead to system-wide. Because you see, I really believe ultimately my clients will figure it out. And I've been amazed over the years, I've been astounded over the years, how people will take a small arc in the circle from our sessions and then go way out and do other things with it. So I would not be surprised when they come back if I was to say, and how were things with mom this week? And they look at each other and see if they're spending more time, and even if it's a small bit of time, talking nicely to each other, they can't be arguing about mom. So that's different. That's different. But you must have a leap of faith that your clients have that ability to take that and go with it where they want.
Well, you gauged their motivation, which was a 7. That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
What if they said it was a 3 or a 4?
Oh, I might say something like, what would it take to get to 4.5? Or I might say that's good.
Is that how far ahead you would go on a scaling? Like if they said a 5, you would say, how would you get to a 5.5, or a 6? You wouldn't say, well, how do we get to a 10?
I took it that when Nico's numbers and Elizabeth's, I thought they were being brutally honest with me.
Right.
They're
but
motivated, but of course they're a little pessimistic about this. I mean, they've been fighting for, I don't know, a long time about mom.
Right. So, but what I'm saying on the scaling question, you're not going to try. You don't want to. I don't want to say it's not optimistic, but you don't want to be like, how do we get to a 10? You would want to be more realistic and say, all right, you're at a 5. How do we get to a 6?
I may. In this case, I just took the numbers and stopped there.
Okay.
I just wanted to show you a scaling thing. And
Would you use this therapy for, which population would you?
all of it. Doesn't matter.
Family and individual?
Family, individuals, classrooms, football teams, political candidates.
Now you really want a miracle, right?
Donald Trump.
So I noticed you teased out the miracle question quite a bit. You even said, 1 or 2 pages, and then you move on. But what is your reasoning behind that, rather than just asking them, what's the one goal you want to work on today? Because that's where you went with it. My question, I'm actually curious about, was it because we're trying to tease out the time? Because I find when I'm trying to use that model, that I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, we already.
Well, I can tell you my take on it, but I would submit that if you're really interested, but I don't know where this is you may look at what the Pine thinking was when they developed the miracle question. My idea behind the miracle question and why I've used it for all these years is not because I haven't found anything better, because if I had, I would have moved on. But for me, well, let me back up. From a historical standpoint, the miracle question was developed in Milwaukee by Berg and DeShazer, and it was kind of one of those serendipitous things where Insu was working with a client and they couldn't come to a goal situation. So she said, so let's pretend if you go home and you go to bed, and boom, they came up with this litany of things that would be different in their lives. And then the next therapist went in and they did it and they went, hey, we're on to something. And that's how they developed the model. They developed, what's the term? Deductively or inductively, what would be the term? Where they did it by just doing it instead of having a theory and then putting it in practice. One of those two. I think deductively. So for myself, as I was trained with it, what I see the power of it is a couple things. First of all, it's been my experience when I ask people, what are your goals for coming here? A lot of times I get this blank stare. And I think it was, well, why are you asking me? That you're the therapist. What is the goal here? And so I was intrigued because this question, without saying the word goal, got them to talk about what their life would look differently from. The other thing that I've worked on is it transitions me nicely from the problem concerns into a preferred future. So it's a real nice demarcation for me moving forward in the therapy.